I'm gonna start kicking it off. I mean, we're 5 minutes after here, so. Am I on? All right. Good evening, church family. You're not imagining it. You are beginning to hear somebody speak through the microphone. I know getting started, especially on a Sunday night, since this is not a traditional service that we have going on, can be hard to kick off. But in honor of what we've got to talk about tonight, the amount of what we've got to talk about tonight, the fact that we advertised it as starting at 5, I'm going to go ahead and call us to order. First thing I want to say is thank you for coming out. It looks like the advertising for tonight's business meeting met its mark in terms of drawing a good crowd out. So it is great to see so many of you coming out tonight. Hopefully the weather, cross your fingers, works out that after we get through with the business of tonight, we can actually visit at the cookout. For those that might not know me, and I'm just trying to kind of scan the crowd, but we have had so many new members, we might take for granted that people know who's up here talking. Most of you know who I am, but for those who might not know, my name is Ben Kobeck, and I serve as one of your 7 elders here in the church. I serve as the chairperson, but that doesn't mean that I'm a notch up above anybody else, but I at least get to kick off these meetings and facilitate the meetings of the elders when we meet independent of congregational meetings. So if we haven't had occasion to meet, I look forward to meeting you. Wanted to, in addition to getting us started tonight, just kind of provide an outline. I always think it's good for engagement, for sure in the workplace, if I know kind of what the meeting is going to consist of. So tonight, after I open us in prayer here in just a moment, I'm going to invite Zach Fiore and anybody else that he might want to bring up with him to start with a presentation, a financial update. And then after that, I'm going to invite the fellow elders to come and join me up here at the front of the church. And I'm going to give each an opportunity to introduce themselves in case there are folks here that don't know who they are. Again, we thought it would be a good opportunity with as many new members as we had to make sure that names and faces go with one another. And then the elders will just systematically work our way through those 10 goals that some of you may have read over, but we'll work through one at a time, and we will pause and give the family an opportunity to ask us questions, and we will do our best to answer each of those. And after that's done, we'll adjourn. So if you will, bow with me, and I'm going to open us up in a word of prayer. God, we are glad to be together as a family. That is what this is, a family business meeting, and we're a big family. We are excited to come together tonight and to spend time getting an update on your faithfulness through finances, and then to work through the goals that you gave the elders at the retreat this year, goals that again, though they came out of the retreat, they really had begun in prayer much before the actual retreat. God, we are excited to see how you continue to work among us, how you continue to grow this fellowship. Lord, even this morning as we continued our sermon series in the book of Joshua, and before we heard that message, we heard from Alicia and recognize, the newest person among us to answer the call to a foreign mission, and just to listen to her testimony about how you've affirmed that trip. At least in the first service, we didn't pause and pray for her corporately, but I wanted to work her into our time together tonight and just ask that you continue to bring things together for her and the small team that she's going to be a part of in Uganda. Just pray that you will continue to go before them, help the things that are going to be a part of those multiple days that they're there together working to come together, but also, God, just for each one of them as members of that team to be an outward example of your love for the people there and people everywhere, God. Lord, as Zach comes forward tonight to talk through the finances, I pray that you would just help his mind to be clear, his presentation to be clear. Lord, as we transition into the goals and the elders join me up here, I pray that we together would just be able to speak to the 10 goals, do our best to communicate what we understand about the path forward, and pray that we could answer each of the questions asked of us tonight. Lord, we again just thank you that we come under your lordship, that you lead this church, and that you allow any of us to be part of ministry and service in the kingdom is just a privilege. So we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Zach, I'll ask you to come forward, and I'll turn it over to you.
All right, welcome everybody. Thank you, Ben. We are officially halfway through the year, and I'm going to just give a quick overview of our finances this year. You guys have all the answers on your sheet already that we've handed out, so nothing surprising here, but I'm just going to run through them for you real quick and then get out of the way for the vision casters to come up and tell us about the strategic plan. So we're just going to set the table with kind of where we're at financially. Jeremiah helped me out and told me to boost my font a little bit. So hopefully you guys can see this a little bit better. He was trying to be really delicate. He said, some people give me slides that are really small. And I was like, oh, so like when I did it last time, he's like, yeah, that was too small. So he was trying to be nice, but I caught it. So we blew it up a little bit, but hopefully you guys have the handouts as well. So the actuals for the first half of the year look like this. The total income that we've taken in, which this income I'm referring to is strictly tithes and offerings, is $404,914, and that is just January through June. So praise the Lord for that. And expenses through that same time period is $340,359.22. So we've spent 84% of what we've taken in. And that all adds up to a weekly tithes and offering average of $15,573. And contrast that with what we put forth in our budget that we approved at the beginning of the year. The total budget is $768,737, and we've spent 44% of that total budget. And then the number to look at here is the budgeted weekly tithes and offerings was right there at 14.7. So contrast that, we're doing pretty well ahead of that goal with the 15.5. So praise the Lord, he provides. And lastly, just to look at where we're at with our current accounts. Our checking account is sitting at $171,529. And then the Edward Jones account that we opened just after the beginning of the year, I think it was February when we opened it up, the elders determined to put a little bit more in there because it was doing so well. So we have invested $200,000 into that savings account. And everything above that 200 has come in from interest. So it's doing really well, and that's exciting. And that is all I have. Any questions, concerns, anything at all? It does not. This is only this side of Living Word Baptist Church, so we have not included the Deaf Church totals in with that.
It does include their tithes and offerings. It does not include their missions.
Oh, okay.
Tithes and offerings are lumped in with our tithes and offerings.
Okay, so it does, not your missions though, but your general giving. Sorry about that. Thank you, Pam. Anything else? All right. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Zach, and those that serve with you on the Finance Committee. At this time, I'm going to invite all the elders who are present, and I think we're all here to come forward. And we're going to give those that are here an opportunity to just simply say their name, so that if you've gone through the new members class recently and you don't know the face that goes with the name, you'll have that opportunity tonight. And then we will start working through just a presentation of the things that we felt led to move towards as a body. So in no particular order, we've got a couple of microphones. Again, as we begin to work through this tonight, I'm going to pause after each of these and allow folks to ask questions. Well, they can if they want to. But I'm going to start actually on that end. I think everybody probably does know you, Gary, but we'll just work our way down, skipping me since I gave an introduction.
Yes, I'm Gary Yates, if you haven't seen me around before. But, I don't feel comfortable with these applauses after the senior pastor. I'm Josh Waltman.
I'm Scott Phillips. My name is Ron Redlinger. Kurt Bricker.
All right. Y'all just hold on to that mic. So our slideshow is not going to be anything fancy tonight, but we are just going to go through the things that were published, and you could have picked up a copy. Many of you will have read them. I'm not going to read the portion of that distributed handout that we created, but I do want to draw everybody's attention to the fact that while these 10 goals came out of the Elders Retreat, it is really imperative that we remember that we came up with a vision several years ago, at least a couple years ago, that you see on these blue pieces of paper in various places. And everything that came out of the retreat was in fact viewed through the lens of both our mission here as a church body and also that vision. So I did want to just read the vision at the outset of our time and as we start to focus on these 10 things. So Living Word's vision says this: in fulfilling our mission, Living Word Baptist Church will aspire toward becoming a teaching church that is focused on training disciples who are firmly grounded in a robust knowledge of God and His Word, fully surrendered to God in a life of worship and prayer, forging healthy and godly family relationships, and focused on our part in fulfilling the Great Commission. So as you think about these 10 things, as you read them as they're posted on the monitors in front of you, just understand that all that we came up with was run through those lenses. And also that opening paragraph in those 10 things, these are not the only 10 things that we're going to be working on over the next 5 years or so. There are lots of great things already going on, things that will continue to go on. But we did feel like these were things that needed attention. I think on the heels of what Zach just presented to us and the faithfulness of the people here, deployment of funds in ministry-centric things, it's time for that. We've long since paid off our mortgage. You all are extremely faithful, and the work of ministry can go forward with a lot of these funds that right now are in a checking account or in a savings account. So we're going to start here with goal number 1, and that is to address the storage needs by purchasing 2 new storage sheds and moving the current shed to a designated storage area on campus. I was reminded in reviewing some more detailed notes from the retreat, which has been a couple months ago now, we had kind of set a goal for ourselves that we would have this done by October. The funds are already there. 2 additional buildings have already been purchased and will be delivered a week from tomorrow. Scott's telling me here from the front. Those 2 additional storage units, if you're not familiar, out here near the back of the fellowship hall, you've already seen one new storage shed which was donated, and that is used exclusively at this time for the children's ministry. When we talk about moving it, I appreciate so much, for so many reasons, our safety team, and it was brought to our attention that while we put it there, not thinking that it was going to create a visual obstacle to the little basketball court behind the double doors at the back of the fellowship hall, it has created a visibility issue, which is a safety issue, especially for folks that use that come from off campus. So that will be moved to create visibility, behind the building from anywhere in the parking lot. So when we talk about moving it, that's why we're moving that one. And then,
And another reason, because they were using that shed to get up on top of the fellowship hall.
okay, could everybody hear that? Some young people that were coming from next door, they could gain access to the roof of the fellowship hall, which obviously has a lot of safety implications and even potential, litigation and things if an injury occurs. So we're moving it away from the building to prevent access to the roof, but also to create visibility. The other 2 storage buildings are going to be the same size, and they're going to be very similar, if not exact, in paint scheme and size and everything else. So there'll be some matching, if you will, that goes with it. They will not be placed back where Miss Nikki's is. One will be used to store worship team equipment, and then the other will be for our youth ministry, for our middle school and high school ministry. And exactly where they're going to be placed, I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe that they're going to be across the parking lot, not necessarily right next to our old storage buildings, but somewhere in that area. Okay, well, you're welcome to come up.
One of the sheds is going to go in between the 2 sheds we have. We're going to take out stuff that's in one shed and put it in there. It's going to be for the youth. The other one is primarily, are you recording this? I need to have a microphone? Okay. The other one is going to be primarily used for worship. So once we empty out the one for youth, one of those green sheds is going to be knocked down because it's bad. We don't want to keep it around. It's an eyesore and it's getting deteriorated. So we're going to knock one of the sheds down after we move out all of the One Night in Bethlehem material that's in the shed on this side over here. But the other shed will go over there in that area as well. So,
Just keep that mic, since we've got a couple.
okay.
Yeah. So again, I want to pause after each of these. Are there any questions, or does anybody want to ask anything about this particular line item? And Scott, do we want to go ahead and present the one-page financial split, or do we want to get into that? The information about the sheds and that kind of thing. I guess we'll just talk about that as we get a little deeper. Yeah. Into the refresh.
Oh, the reason why we have one for the worship, these 2 rooms have a lot of things, as well as the Connex unit out in the back, have a lot of things that worship uses. And sometimes it makes these 2 rooms very crowded. So when we have baptism, like we're going to have next Sunday, it's difficult to get people in there and give them room to be able to dress, get ready for baptism. So that's another reason for the shed, to clear out the storage that's been taking place in both of these rooms that worship uses, and so put it in that shed, as well as the things that are out there in the Connex.
Good. So again, just pausing to make sure that I don't rush past any questions. Yes, Tim. Are you speaking about the Connex, that big semi-trailer? So, and that's great, because if you understood what I was saying about storage buildings to mean Connex, we're not going with more of those big, think shipping containers like we have at the back. It will be more akin to the variety that you see in people's backyards, so it looks like
They'll look exactly like.
a garden shed. If you've seen the one that kind of sits off to the side of the building with the double doors, it will be two more of that style. But I'm glad you brought that up, so that if there was anybody else thinking that we were going with the shipping container style in the form of two more, we're not. Good question. Was there another hand in the back or anywhere? Okay. All right, so I'm gonna move us on to goal number 2. All right, so the second one, invest $50,000 into refreshing the facilities on campus. And so there are some specifics here, and you may say, well, what part of our facilities are we gonna refresh? I keep hearing about some painting that's going on, some carpet tiles that are going in. That is part of this $50,000 refresh. Everybody wouldn't have gotten a copy of some of these details, but some of the additional funds, so the flooring that is going in the form of carpet tiles, that is about $17,500 when you're thinking about the $50,000 worth of funds. We are planning to get a new love seat, a new area rug out here in front of the coffee area, a couple of new chairs, and a new table, so that back corner in the foyer will be completely refreshed with updated furniture to replace what's there now. You've been hearing about the painting that's already begun in our children's building. So it's my understanding upstairs and down, the walls have already been painted, and they look great. I was over there this evening, and obviously the carpet tile work will begin tomorrow. And it's gonna begin upstairs. They're gonna work, I think, nearest the set of stairs that come out externally, and then when they finish that, we'll move the stuff that's in the other part of the upstairs to that room so that they can work. But I understand there's gonna be a crew working downstairs and a crew working upstairs simultaneously. But the paint comes in at just over $1,100. Actually, though they are separate line items or separate items in our goals, the sheds are actually part of this refresh. And so each of those sheds is $5,000. So the 2 new sheds that I just talked about would total $10,000. And then the last thing that's listed here, at least on the information that I have, is sod for the courtyard out here. So think to the right, if you're facing the children's building, of the picnic area and so forth. And I don't know that that's already been decided, that we, in fact, will purchase that, or exactly the timing of that. But assuming that we do, the estimate on that is $5,000. So that does not bring the total up, and I didn't expect you to be doing the math in your head, to $50,000. That is just over $34,600. So, you know, there would still be dollars available for further updates and refresh. Scott, any of the elders want to add anything to this point before I open it up to the body to ask questions that they have? All right, I'm not hearing anything added from the elders. What questions do you, the body, have about the refresh and the use of this amount of money for the things that were listed? Yes.
Yes, but it was too expensive.
Could you hear that?
Yes, we did look at that, but it's too expensive.
So could everybody hear the question about turf as opposed, and that's artificial as opposed to sod? It's a great question. Sounds like we have gotten a quote. I think we have maybe a UTSA family or something that has.
Well, the original quote was for all of the courtyard, because you could tell, we tried to lay grass seed down, and it just, nothing took, because it's used so much, and the ground is so it's not conducive to that. So we've had a couple of different people give us estimates for sod and maybe even for a layer of black dirt to be put underneath it, so it gives us a better foundation to lay the sod on. But yeah, we did check into artificial turf, but Scott Blomquist, the report he got back, it was way too expensive. It would have been way beyond what we were trying to do. But now we only, if, I think it's number 4, which is the trying to extend the foyer, if that goes through, we're not going to sod this half of the courtyard because the new construction's going to take up half of that courtyard. And so now it's just going to be, the sod will take place from the cross that direction and fill in all that stuff over there, okay?
Scott, as a follow-up to that point about black dirt, fertile soil, topsoil, is the 5,000 just the sod itself, or does it involve any? Just the sod itself. I wanted the body to hear that in full transparency. Again, not that we don't have some funds to consider leveling, and I think I know we did a lot of drainage work in there, even though it hasn't supported life in the form of grass in all the corners. At least the drainage has been addressed, so if we did bring in some topsoil and lay that sod in the back half of the courtyard out there, I think we could get that sod to take. Good question. Thank you for asking it. What other questions? Yes. Good question. Not this month, next month. I mean, it'll need to be fall or, yeah, because you need to winter it in, and obviously you need a lot of precipitation or watering. So yeah, we would make sure that we didn't bust on the time of year. Good question. Yes. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, good question. Good question. Certainly, too, to the timing question, you'd have to be sensitive to when you did that. Did you want to add? Okay, I couldn't tell. Good thought, John. We do need to be thoughtful on spending that kind of money if we don't feel like with confidence that it's going to produce what we ultimately want, which is no more mud. Yeah. Good. Yes, Nate. Is Scott in here?
Tens of thousands, so I don't know exactly, but.
Tens of thousands is what I'm hearing from up here.
Something like that.
20, 30, but we can follow up with you for sure. Yeah, good question. Any more questions? There's not a limit, Durden, so you can ask 3 or 4 if you want to.
No, we need to put a limit on him.
Okay, yes. Well, and to be clear, we haven't laid sod. We did overseed and put straw down when we did that project to work on drainage. That was also done in conjunction with our playground and the drainage there between the picnic pavilion and the playground. We did try to overseed it, but we haven't actually done the sod that has the roots and the soil medium with it. So this would be like 2.0 on trying to get that established in grass. Good question. What else? Yeah, Zach.
I just thought we could clarify that this 50,000 is not new money. It's included in the current budget that was approved at the beginning of the year. So we have 25,000 for capital expenditures that would be part of this, and then also we had designated funds for the bathroom renovation and a consultant, which we did too. So that money is pooled for this 50,000, which is why we're not really voting on it.
Yeah, I appreciate that clarification. And if you could not hear that, Zach was making sure that all the body knows that this is not an ask for raising capital to do this project. This is funds that already exist and that were earmarked in the initial budget. Half of that amount, 25,000 for capital improvement, and the other a bathroom refresh. And we're going to talk about, I know that bathroom refresh and the fact that it's not taking place is going to have you asking questions about why it's not taking place, but it actually fits into, I think, number 4 in terms of the larger project. Thank you, Zach. Any other questions? Elders, if we're getting this many questions on sod, I'm just wanting us to be prepared. And I think we are. Good. Any more questions? All right. So we'll move on to goal number 3. Invest $40,000 to $50,000 into building a pickleball court on campus to serve families. So again, I wanted to read the vision, and I wanted to talk about us being a teaching church. Teaching for sure means what we do in here, what we do in our children's wings and so forth. But we all know that we have a vibrant UTSA homeschool program that meets here with hundreds of students that would also benefit from a project like this. I'll just lay out kind of a description, because in your mind you're thinking, where would basketball, pickleball court go? We looked at a couple different areas on campus, but we have settled on the field, essentially. If you think about catty corner to where the picnic pavilion is now, up where we used to spectate and watch Cola Wars, it's not quite that far back, but it would be up on that flat portion and kind of away from the picnic pavilion. We can talk in more detail, but some obvious questions that you're probably going to have is, have we gotten a quote that lets us know, or what kind of confidence can we present to the church that we could achieve a basketball, pickleball court for $40,000 to $50,000? We have gotten multiple quotes that do in fact put us in this ballpark range, pardon the pun. And the concrete, for those that know about concrete, the quote would include rebar in the concrete, so it's not just a shallow, thin pad of concrete that would be poured. But is there anything, elders, before I open it up to questions, and I'm certain that there will be some, you guys would want to add to the descriptions I just gave? Oh, who's got one?
I mean, if you want, I can speak this a little bit. Partly, some of this would be involved with, obviously, the Benefits Youth Ministry, but we probably had 12, 15 men at different times that get together to play pickleball, do those kinds of things. So I think it's more thinking also about adult ministry and the ability to promote fellowship, bring people that probably would not come to a church service, but would come to campus to do something like this, and just to provide some of those opportunities. We've talked a little bit about gyms and those kinds of things, but then you're getting into millions of dollars worth, and we're talking here about $50,000 and that sort of thing. And so that is partly the thinking behind that. And I know there have been a couple of churches where I've been involved in groups that get together and do this, and typically at those churches, when you go to those groups, half the people there don't go to that church, but they're there and they learn about the church, find out about the church, meet people there through this kind of facility. And so just to provide this for kind of enhancing the community life of the church as well. So.
Do you want to talk, since you've been part of getting the quotes, about the surfacing of it and the size of it?
Yeah, we got bids from a concrete company where we're talking about a 70 by 70 foot, which would be enough to put a basketball court in, and then also to be able to line it for 2 pickleball courts. So it would be concrete, then it would be, you know, coated and painted blue like you see on a typical tennis or pickleball court. This would also have a 10-foot fence around it. And, you know, just if there are any concerns about security and those kinds of things, or potential vandalism, this would be something that, you know, you'd have to have access with somebody through the church and that sort of thing. It's not just going to be out there, you know, in the field.
And one of the things too that it helps solve is currently UTSA has, I think it's there because of UTSA, we've had 2 basketball nets in the pavement area on that side of the fellowship hall. And a lot of times, you know, the students will play back there. But the problem is, you know, the balls hit the siding back there. Other young people from the community come back there. And again, the safety factor that Jay was concerned about, which is a concern. But once we get that basketball court set up in there, if we approve it, then we'll take those nets out that are back there in that cement area behind the fellowship hall, so we wouldn't have that issue to deal with anymore back there. And then I think Gary said he has somebody already lined up to give a significant amount of money towards this already, so that brings the cost down a little bit.
Yeah, and potentially some of the work with painting and lining and those kinds of things we may be able to do ourselves, which would also reduce some cost.
Does the cost include the basketball? Yeah, like 2 basketball.
Not the 30,000, but it's kind of projected in the larger 50,000.
If we want really good quality basketball nets that will last a while and that we're talking at $5,000–6,000 per.
Not included in the 50,000.
Yeah, the whole project.
Will still be under that amount. Yes.
What is the life expectancy on the actual surface? Like how often would it have to be resurfaced? And what does that cost?
It'll outlast me, let me tell you.
Is the entire thing painted? Because the painted surface does wear out.
Right, I would think,
Or is it just lines painted?
no, it will be coated and painted. And yeah, courts typically would have to be resurfaced, probably every 5 to 6 years. Is that about right? But I think to coat a court like that and everything, you're probably talking about $5,000 to $6,000, somewhere in that range. I mean, definitely that paint is fairly expensive, but that's probably, and I would say the fence around it is probably going to be the largest beyond the concrete itself.
Are folks in the back able to hear? If I need to move the microphone to question askers, you can hear good? Okay, good. I know Ryan has patiently been waiting in the back to ask a question. Go ahead.
Well, I have been in conversations with Linnea, and she wanted to wait until whether or not this got approved tonight, but she has plans for doing fundraising through UTSA to help try to raise some of the money for this project. So in addition to the money that we were talking about that Gary had, you know, somebody wanting to donate money to, then UTSA, once we get this approved, if it gets approved, then she would work her magic. I don't know how much, okay, we won't ask her how much, but she will, 10,000, do I hear 15? Do I hear 15? Anyway, she's gonna work her magic with that and try to raise as much money as she can through UTSA, so. No. What? Oh, when we get down to like number 10 or number 9, whatever the one is about UTSA, Yeah, no, there is not a actual percentage that we have thought about. But again, because fundraisers, I don't know, are not, something that you can always say, you're going to earn this amount. You might have a goal for it, but we may not reach that goal. So,
But Ryan, again, hold on to that idea about UTSA and partnering. I mean, that's a term for sure in number 10. We do want to talk about being capital partners in even the next goal that we're going to talk about in an expansion of the building, to again, encourage collaboration with the church and UTSA in garnering funds. And you've heard, if this is approved a couple different times, this is one of the 2 voting items. So I hope everybody got a ballot when you came in. We're gonna hold on to those and kind of bundle the voting for one time. But this is one of the decisions that we're asking the body to affirm or deny in terms of whether or not we go forward with the construction project of this pickleball court. Good. Angie, you had a question.
Yes, I was just wondering if it would be possible to where the sod is a problem with the pickleball, basketball goals, and something that could be put there that would solve the sod issue and stuff. And the other question I had was, have you looked into like possibly a metal building to enclose it? Or is that something like, once it's laid, is that something that could possibly happen in the future?
Yeah. Both are great questions. I'm going to take a swing at it, but then I'm going to invite others to join me in this. One of the things that when we talk about these goals being ranging from soon to within 5 years, we're trying to be principled in like expansion of the grounds and be thoughtful about, even though the expansion that we're going to talk about in the next item is going to be proposed to be between the building we're in right now and the children's wing, we just have to be thoughtful about where we put permanent things that then create obstacles to even further expansion of the facilities of the building. So our vision is not looking out 10 to 15 years when there could be a new auditorium, but we're trying to be thoughtful about the placement of permanent structures, how close to the current building they are, and what they do to how we would work a plan in terms of the 17 acres we have in the future. So I think, and again, I'm speaking from what I've heard us talk about, it would probably not be ideal to either cover it with a quasi-permanent metal building that close to the building, or to place it that close to the building for future expansion. Guys, would you disagree about kind of the way we've talked about the facilities?
When the concrete people came out and did estimates, they gave us 2 or 3 locations where they thought it would be the best place to put this. So that, and really we hadn't talked about putting it that close to the building again because of potential expansion and those kind. Is there a possibility that you could potentially put a roof over it some way or a metal building? I think that's a possibility. It's just something right now. This is more kind of a short-term thing. Could that potentially be something that happens in the future? I think it could, but it wasn't something that we have really immediately discussed. So.
No,
Not presently. No.
Not phase 1. It's not, but a good, appropriate question. Good. Yes, Andy.
Would it be where I grew up, we had volleyball night at many churches in the area, and a lot of the, that was a big draw for young people. Just a thought throwing that out there, to even increase the utility of that facility if we're going to put the money into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Yeah,
great
there
suggestion.
won't be any like posts or anything in the ground for like pickleball nets. So if you wanted to play volleyball there, obviously the basketball goals are a little bit more permanent, but there won't be anything that's permanently in the way of doing something like that. So
Would-
yep.
I'm just curious too, did you play on like a concrete surface, or was it more like beach sand and all that, just for falls and, yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, any nets or anything that would be there would be things that would be portable.
Yeah, good question. Yeah.
Okay, I'll pass it back to you for, but one thing I just wanted to mention about this, we have looked at some, I mean, this has been in the more distant past, but we've looked at possibly, what would a gym cost or a shell building or something like that. The prices go up exponentially when you're talking about the size that we would need, because it's not just your standard shell building. It's something that has to be tall enough to accommodate, basketball, and that kind of thing. And so the price we're talking about, potentially by the time you figure in electrical and everything like that, I mean, this is potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars is kind of what we were kind of told. And so the thought was, as far as low-hanging fruit, this maybe could hold us over, and for $50,000, we could see if this is something that, the church really appreciates, and if this is something that the church says, yes, we want more of it. Maybe that's something we could look at in the future, but we wanted to kind of be conservative in how we're spending money on recreational items when we have other needs at the moment as well.
Yes, Bill, go ahead. It's a great question, and I admit I don't have the answer. If you didn't hear the question, the rest of the body and also the elders, it was about increasing liability coverage to have a facility like that, especially perhaps controlling access. I'm sure it would have some bearing on it, but mhm. Yeah. If you couldn't hear that, Bill, the fact that we have basketball played here, granted, it's not at the same scale as a new facility like what we're talking about building, but that is a good consideration and one that needs vetting for sure.
Yeah, I can look into that question.
Okay, yes. Honestly, they don't at the moment, but similar to several of the questions that have been asked, those are things that can easily be added after the initial expense, but they're not wrapped up in what we're pitching to the congregation this evening.
I was going to say something about the quality of play, but I won't. I won't make that comment. But
I would have to charge tickets for when I play basketball, though, so.
Go ahead, April. Miss April was suggesting you bring your folding chairs as opposed to bleachers. Good questions. Yes, Elijah.
Wanted some clarification on the official
Yeah, Bill Gorman and I talked at the front door this morning, and he brought up some great things about that. Because again, back to Andy's point, when you have a facility, you'd love for the public to be part of it, especially for youth. That can be a draw to the church, which is their primary draw initially until we have an opportunity to evangelize and be part of it. We advertised that 10-foot high fence. We talked about the young people getting on our roof by access of the storage building. I don't think it's in, for sure, the heart of any of the leadership to exclude people from using it. I think the thing that we're going to have to be very thoughtful about, so this isn't an answer that comes fully vetted and we've got it figured out, but my suggestion would be signage that talks about the church and UTSA having priority during the hours that those are meeting here on campus. But Bill brought up a good point. Even if we grant access, when you think about vandalism, when you think about the coating on that pickleball surface, that basketball surface, if it's open 24 hours a day, it's not lighted, spray painting, all kinds of stuff can occur there. So is there a way that people can use it, but they provide some basic information in order to use it, so that we have some way to understand who was on it, what took place when they were on it, that kind of thing. So I don't know if that's some sort of an app that can report that. We don't know how that would look, but that's just me talking. Scott, you go ahead.
Well, personally, I can envision maybe not necessarily hiring somebody, but maybe somebody who wants to use it as a ministry opportunity to be our sports director and kind of use that as a ministry opportunity to monitor it certain nights of the week, as part of their ministry, their volunteer service that they'd like to be a part of. As far as the evening hours, during the daylight hours, there's all kinds of possibilities that could come. At this point, no, we have not thought through all those kind of questions, but it's certainly something that we will consider. So, but I do see it as a great potential for ministry that we could, because we're going to be talking about internships here in a little bit, maybe having somebody as an intern who can be the sports person and monitor that and have basketball or pickleball events happening during the evening hours and schedule times for them to come and be part of something like that. So that's a possibility as well.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in here too, just for the sake of letting everybody know. We didn't work out, we discussed some of these elements. I didn't want to let the congregation think that we didn't necessarily talk this through and think this through, but it just wasn't helpful to work out procedures and things like that prior to a vote on whether or not we think this is something we want to do. And so, we didn't want to get the cart before the horse kind of thing. Just want to make that point.
Yeah, and it's also a good opportunity, and I had good intentions of saying this in the beginning. These are 10 goals, and we did discuss, Kurt brought up a great point when we were kind of refining tonight's meeting. Many of you may have come expecting like turn-by-turn directions on a roadmap to the achievement of these 10 goals. These are goals at this point. And so the questions that you're asking are great questions that need to be answered. But we didn't come prepared to tell you that we had thought through all of the details to achievement of these. And again, the point that was just made is an important one, that better to know that this is even a direction we want to go before we iron all these things out. But I did see another hand raised. Did you want to ask a question? Yeah, good point.
You donated the money for that access system? I'll tease it, Scott. Don't answer that question. No.
I was going to say for a committee to be formed and Scott headed up since he's got shorts on.
There's always got to be one person like you. I just wanted to be like Elijah.
Other questions? Okay, Renee, and I see one over here.
Just wanted for clarification, since we've got more questions about the, like the, what are we doing and how are we going to answer all these little pieces? If the church votes this yes, will there be some kind of opportunity for those that may have thoughts or, different pieces to be able to give feedback? Or is this a yes and we're just moving forward? I guess that's the comfort I want to know, is can we give more input later on in the process?
Yes. I'm looking around and everybody's kind of, but no, I think that's an appropriate question, and yes is the appropriate answer. We're a family, so we're not looking for carte blanche. Once you approve this, we take it and run with it, and we have heard a lot of great questions tonight. One thing I've got for us, Ron, I see you looking down. I know I'm calling on you. You're scribbling a lot of this down, perhaps? Good. Okay, so we're capturing a lot of the questions. I know I had a hand raised somewhere up front.
How many of you do not have a ballot? 2? You're out of luck, I'm sorry. No, okay. I will try to find something for you guys. All right, did you have a question, somebody? Who?
I thought I saw a hand on this side. Okay, it was.
It may not fall underneath of this goal, but under all these goals, considering safety and security, has there been any thought to add additional cameras to be able to monitor, like the courts, the sheds, any other areas?
Yes, we do have extra cameras available. We just need to find somebody who can install them.
Okay, good question. Any other questions on the pickleball basketball court? So to Renee's question, again, if we vote to move forward, what we are voting to move forward on is getting the answers to the creation of this basketball, pickleball court. And we'll create a venue where folks we make sure we address these things that have been asked tonight before we get too far in that process. Sound right? Okay. Yes, Deborah.
Because on Park Fence, we're voting to invest $40,000 to $50,000 in it. So I'm just wanting clarity on that. I think you heard me.
Yeah, we are voting for that amount of money, but to Renee's point, we won't break ground and begin investing the $40,000 to $50,000 until the answers to questions that have been raised are resolved. So I promise I'm not trying to sound like a politician, but you are voting to approve this as a direction that the church wants to go in that amount of money. Ben? And if there's other funds, that just brings the 40 or 50 down. Yeah, good point. Yeah, if you couldn't hear that in places within the church, it could come down once we realize either donations through UTSA fundraising or from donations from individuals. Yes, Linnea.
We would send an email out to the 200 families saying, hey, this is what we want to go forward, and we need some donations if you guys would like to see this go forward, and then have a few fundraisers. So I would love to put an amount on it. My goal, personal goal, but this is just me speaking, is 5,000. I would love for it to be more, but that's my personal goal. So just speaking to him back there with the UTSA money.
Yeah, good. What other questions?
We are voting
to pull the trigger. Yeah. Every
question before we.
Right.
But yes, we're voting on.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move us along to goal number 4. All right, so this one obviously is going to draw lots of questions. Questions are good. Goal number 4, invest $500,000 to $750,000 into building an expanded foyer, welcome center, entryway, and additional classroom spaces outfitted with easy-to-use recording capabilities and teaching tools. We have, unlike the pickleball courts, we have not gotten quotes on an expansion project like this. We have gotten an estimate from one company that puts us in this ballpark for what we, the elders, kicked around in terms of needs. And, you know, one of the questions that we anticipate is, why would we expand the foyer and not build similar to the gymnasium or the covered pickleball basketball facility? Why wouldn't we look at a larger worship center as compared to an expanded foyer? I heard it said best, and definitely want to hear the questions. We could all argue that in the second service, we're pushing capacities on a lot of Sundays, which is a great problem to have. We're not in the first service currently, but we are always pushing capacity in that foyer as it stands right now. And so it is not particularly welcoming or inviting. I was at the first service this morning and was like a salmon trying to swim my way out for the gathered crowd that was there. And then you have the restrooms right here at the door as well. So the idea is to not officially connect the building that we're in now to the fellowship hall building, but to go almost the full length of the breezeway between the two buildings in terms of length of an expansion for the foyer, to create a new entrance that would have the majority of people entering in what is the parking lot now, think halfway down the breezeway. And then for there to be partitionable classroom spaces, one of which, if not both of that larger area, equipped with camera and recording quality infrastructure, so that when we think about being a teaching church, whether that be for UTSA or for the content that we're doing in the form of podcast and teaching on Thursday mornings when Gary is leading, those things are recordable and distributable in a quality format. And also, because those classrooms are envisioned as partitionable, it would create an overflow space for a more crowded worship service where, you know, again, folks are here, you know, presentation going on in here, but it's projected in that overflow space. So that's just a little bit about this particular goal and why it's not a new worship center. And again, yeah.
Okay, the one estimate that I got from a friend of mine, Chris Tolley, who owns Piney Ridge Construction. If those of you who have kids at Timberlake Christian School, you'll recognize that name because he just completed a lot of construction over there, was about $850, but that included an extra $100,000 to renovate the bathrooms, because I don't know about you, but I don't like the bathroom entrances being right by the entrance to the auditorium. Anybody else like them? Okay, all right. Gotcha. You were raising your hand. Anybody not like it? Okay, raise your hand. Yes, it's not a very nice look to going in and out of the bathroom right there, or coming out, you know, and running into a bunch of people. So the idea what I asked them to do, so the original estimate of $750 would be for the foyer. The extra $100 was to renovate the bathrooms, add an extra, where we would take out the, this is just a thought, it's not set in stone, okay? So don't throw anything at me right now. But to take out the mother-baby room, the nursing room, and the nursery, extend the bathrooms, at least one more stall that direction, and then put the entrances to the bathrooms in that back hallway. And then in the new construction out there for the foyer, I've already spoken to Joy. We would, within that new construction, create another, baby mother room over there in that new construction area. So we're not going to lose it. We're just repositioning it, moving it somewhere else. So that extra 100,000 is to fix the bathroom issue, give us more bathroom space, as well as cut off the entrances here and make them someplace else. That's what that's for. And the reason why again, he was mentioned all about the, why we're not doing a auditorium per se, because this construction does not essentially increase our room capacity for the auditorium, which would hopefully not necessitate doing a traffic study out here on Waterlick Road. Doing a traffic study and then having to put in the potential for 2 turning lanes out here would just be another $1.5 million to do all that construction to put new turn lanes in there. So that's one reason why we have not pursued doing an auditorium at this time, because it adds that extra $1.5 million for the traffic study and new lanes out here on Waterlick. So doing the expansion of the foyer with the 2 classrooms hopefully does not necessitate the traffic study either. So.
All right, with that, I'm going to open item number 4 up to questions.
And I have the mic. So you answered one of my questions, Scott, thank you, about expanding and whether or not that would increase capacity and requires to traffic study. But I was confused on the bathroom. So the quote you gave was greater than the 750,000. So is the bathroom adjustment part of what we're voting on or not part of what we're voting on? Because as an usher, I can tell you that's a huge problem. So, right?
We're not voting on it. If it's an additional $100,000, that's not what is described in the ballot as it sits in your lap right now.
Take your pen out and change that ballot to 850. Change it to 850,000. So.
All right, just to kind of speak to this, I kept the minutes at our retreat, so a lot of times I have some of the details. That is something that could be added on if it's something that the church says yes, like we think that that's important to try to add more money to that number. In coming up with these goals, we didn't have quotes in order to determine what the numbers were going to look like, and there are bylaws in place that state we have to give you the goals to vote on with X amount of time, ahead of time, right? So that's an adjustment that could be made if we decide to move forward here. But one thing that I think it would be pertinent to mention is that if the church says yes to this direction, at least initially here in terms of these kind of numbers, we'd want to, I think, establish a committee, a building committee, to look into, hey, what is it that we really need here, and let's finalize and formalize some actual quotes and get some real numbers to bring back to the church, and before we pull an actual trigger on this thing. But doing that lifting doesn't make sense if the church says, no, we don't think this is a direction at all that we want to move in. So that's really, I think, am I communicating that correctly, guys? We want to get some affirmation from the church in this direction before we go and put together a lot more effort on it.
Goal 3 and goal 4 are very different, because the one is like, we're ready to go on this. But goal 4 is we are planning now, which would involve a lot of planning going into this, or eventually beginning a capital campaign to raise the money for this. We're not going to break ground tomorrow. This is just, we're committing to move in this direction, and it will involve all of those steps ahead of time before we ever actually spend any money or break any ground or do anything like that. Correct.
Yeah, Nate, I saw your hand next. Scott, will you give Nate the mic?
You again.
So with that answer in mind, thank you, Josh and Gary. I mean, is it possible, I play a lot of board games and there are a lot of literal, you gotta be literal. So this is literally saying we're investing money. And what we, if I'm correct in understanding what you guys just said, this is more of a, let's move this direction, which are two very, 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 very different things. So, I mean, is it possible to amend this on the fly to say, let's form a committee that will then really dive in to look at this instead of we're just gonna plop this money out there and see what we can do with it? Is that a thing?
I don't know that it's a thing, being honest. And again, to Gary's point, Nate, it is a directional thing. So it's not, again, unlike pickleball, unlike for sure the refresh where we're reallocating funds that exist to a project, this is very different. This is a ground up capital campaign where you don't even know if it's going to get off the ground. You know, this is a 5-year aspirational goal. It may take 2 years or a year to get 30% or something, and it does not look like, you know, we're headed in that direction.
I'm sorry, guys. It's a little bit of a chicken or the egg problem, right? Because it's hard to vote on a specific number when we can't get the numbers without doing a significant amount of lift, you know, and investment across the church to get those definitive numbers. You know, but yeah, I think we threw those numbers out there to begin with because we want it to be clear, like we want to be conservative here and not drop $5-6 million on a new sanctuary in the field. Which is what we think probably that would look like based on what some other churches in the area have done. And knowing that the traffic study was going to be involved and things like that. A little bit more just context here. If in the future Living Word does say, hey, it's important to us that we have another sanctuary, a bigger facility, right? If we want to expand this or to do something out there, we want it to add to this facility in a way that would still be usable then. So a foyer, more space, more classrooms, all of that is something that can be used regardless of what happens maybe 15 years out. So that was part of the thinking here as well. But you know, it's a little bit like before we go drop significant amount of money just to get this thing up off the ground and capital, you know, campaigns started and, you know, really presenting this to the church on a sustained way. We feel like we need affirmation from you all to move forward in this direction, you know, knowing that, you know, those numbers need to be adjusted with formal quotes and things like that. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but just from the elders' perspective, like we don't feel like we can go beyond this until we get the green light and affirmation to move in that direction.
All right, here I am. All right, so just to clarify the verbiage aspect, we're voting in favor of a goal, not voting to, yes, let's invest X amount of dollars. Because it says I vote in favor of goal number 4. So we're voting, I want this to be a goal of ours, and this is a goal of our church. Not necessarily, I vote we have X amount of dollars that we will invest. I vote that this should be a goal of our church. Is that how I just want to make sure I'm understanding that.
If we vote yes to this, it's going to change how we do fundraising. It's going to change how we budget. The financial team's going to go into action, I hope, Zach, wherever you are, to try to put together what do we need to do? How do we make this work? What's this going to look like? So it is going to trigger a lot of effort, significant amount of lift on our end. But, you know, as far as saying, yeah, like this is the bottom line number, this is what we're going to look like, I fully anticipate this is something we're going to have to continue to bring back before the church along the way as a committee is put together and everything like that. Am I accurately representing that, guys? We don't anticipate this being the final vote and the final discussion on this. This is more like we need to move in that direction, and we think as a body, this is something that we want. Is that fair?
All right.
You talked about the restrooms and also adding on to the welcome center, making classrooms. So in essence, we could be increasing capacity. Is there regulations, how many bathrooms are required for that kind of thing? Because, if we're going to be investing in new restrooms or something, it'd be nice to be able to put them in a location that like Deaf Church and junior high could access without going outside, either enclosing the breezeway or something along those lines.
I'm going to try to tackle them in a couple of pieces. In terms of like code for more people and number of bathrooms, we haven't explored that detail in just a transparent answer. So no to have we explored that. Do we know the answer to that? We do know that when you talk about moving plumbing or adding plumbing, you're adding significant cost, which is why the expansion of the footprint, although the access would be different as Scott laid out, if we went forward with this, would be different. But to construct bathrooms in a more central location could be done. It's not part of, again, the bracketed amount that we're presenting today, but it would drive the cost up significantly. Yes.
Okay, I'll just start speaking next time.
Yeah, one of the issues with our current foyer is the bottleneck moving into this room. Have you thought about how to address that in this plan?
Again, guys, I covet your help in explaining this if I don't do it adequately. But Carl, one of the things that we do want to change is the entrance point that comes in right now and hangs that right angle left into here. So the main entrance to a new foyer would be out essentially where the 6 or 8 parking spaces are in the parking lot today. I don't know if we talked about shifting the entrance to where those, you see where the 2 acoustic boards are in the back that now is like an alcove for seating, shifting the entrance into that bigger space, which also frees up the area right in front of, what would be the restrooms today, but creating a larger entrance to the right if you're looking at the back of the building to where it is today. Does that answer those two? I mean, I say, does it answer it? I don't know that it sufficiently answers it, but that's what we have envisioned in our minds. I know Tony has been standing. I'm sorry, I didn't see you until
That's okay.
I took this to Carl, but you've got the next question, and then I see you. I'll get to you for sure.
All right, so I won't be too long. Two questions. In the in the expansion for everything going out towards the breezeway and such, and kind of a little bit of a remodel that's happening in here, are you guys considering expanding our current worship center in any direction, outways or lengthwise, or anything like that in the remodel?
The only thing, Tony, would be in the overflow. And Josh has reminded me, if we expand the footprint of this worship center out, up, anything, it will trigger the traffic study.
So not just like a new building, but actually expanding that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the other question is, so within the expansion and the conversation, there's been stuff mentioned about the bathrooms. Would that be let's see. So we have a budget that was already approved for a bathroom remodel, right? And so would that be then worked into this whole goal, and maybe we're pushing off the remodel to figure out when this is happening and like to include that we've already approved?
That's a good question. Yes. So we are postponing the originally budgeted bathroom update in the interest of this goal, because if we did a bathroom update and then that didn't work in the larger plan, we have spent money on a project that should have been part of the foyer expansion.
Last part to that, what was it that we approved before? Because I don't remember. How much did we approve for the bathroom budget?
25,000. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't think he's challenging the.
I don't know if we can do this, but I would recommend, I think it would be good to table number 4, in just my opinion, where we can actually have more visibility, because it's such a large number. Can we, I know we talked about, hey, do we want to move this way? But is there a way we can say, this is the concept, here are some drawings, here's some concrete numbers, if we want to go about this process, so that there's more, just more data for people to kind of swallow a little bit, like, having some, just bigger picture, hey, this is the direction we do want to go, and here's what this kind of looks like, versus, I see what we have, but just putting real numbers behind it, I think it would help alleviate maybe a lot of the questions and thought process to that. So I don't know if that's a possibility.
I might be misinterpreting, but I feel like what we're asking right now is, do we proceed with going forward with drawing up those plans and those numbers so that we have a better understanding of where we want to go, but we have to compile a group of people to be able to move forward, and it's the work and the efforts that are going to go into understanding that, and that's what the vote is tonight, is to say, yes, we want the church to invest our time, energy into exploring this for the future. Am I understanding that correctly? So you're saying, can we go forward with that? Okay. Well,
I would say if that's what we're trying to say, I think it needs to be reworded. It says we invest this money. And I also wanted to add, I know you said that we need a building committee, but the bathrooms out there were probably done by a builder. Not a good idea. And so I think it's important that the right people, like a designer or somebody, is involved to make sure that it's done the right way as well. And not, I'm sure everybody has great ideas, but I think it's important moving forward.
All right, good. I'm going to say something, but other elders can step in too. It sounds like, based on the way that this is worded tonight, and that's why we have family meetings, is to make sure that we're all aligned. You would vote no to the way that it's worded tonight, but I don't hear the church saying we're not interested in learning more. But I think the way that we've got to vote, based on the way that it was put before the church and the way it's worded on the ballot, we can't call an audible and just make up new verbiage tonight and agree that that's going to be the verbiage. I think we just have to vote no. But I do not hear from the body, we're not interested. I just hear the wording is what's tripping us up.
Ben, I'm going to second what you just said. I think it's at least for me, it's a lack of detail. So we've got some dollar figures on a piece of paper. We've got a budget based on this year that Zach just gave us. So how do we put those two together to determine how we're going to pay for it and over what period of time? I heard 2 years before we break ground, possibly. I heard 5-year project outlook. So I think if the church was a little more attuned to what time frame we're looking at and how are we going to pay for this, because I'm not a proponent of debt. I know it's part of life, and I know that we have to trust the Lord that if we expand, He's, through evangelism and doing His kingdom work, that this church is going to grow. I don't want to downplay that, but I also want to be, just for me personally, I want to be sensitive to debt.
I saw another person. Did you want to say something, Tim? Okay. Okay, Gary, did you want to say something before I move us?
I was going to maybe propose maybe to where we take out the invest $500,000 to $750,000 and word the first part of that is that initiate the process of planning these specific things, the expanded foyer, the welcome center, the entrance. And I think that would at least allow us to begin the committee process, getting plans and those kinds of things. But I think partly what we wanted to know as a leadership team, as the elders, was like, is this something that the church supports, is on board with, and thinks is needed and necessary? And I think we do need to have at least like some sort of affirmation that this is part of what we want to do in terms of future plans. But yeah, I think maybe even if we just change the first phrase there, initiate the planning stages for building the things that are in the rest of the verbiage. So. Well, can't we make that amendment and vote on it here tonight, or is that not something that can be done? I'm not sure procedurally.
John Durden, you're the bylaws guy. You're the bylaws guy. Here's presented. You can amend that motion to be worded this way, and the church can vote on that amendment.
Okay, I was just going to say, to get the affirmation, we might be able to just do a raise of hands, so you can just see visually that, yeah, we're for that, and deal with the rewording and come back a month from now and vote on the rewording. But
am I good? I also had a quick question. So assuming that we move forward with this, how many rooms are we looking at adding? Just 2 classrooms? So we're removing the mother, baby classrooms, 3 with that one? Okay. Is there any consideration in the Deaf Church having their own dedicated space? Because having been part of the Deaf Church, I know there are some difficulties with some of our equipment being utilized or moved around and things like that. Someone else from the Deaf Church might be able to better explain, but I just didn't know if that's in consideration at all.
Well, for sure, you'll see on the goals tonight, the strategic plan of the Deaf Church is something that John is working on creating and presenting to the elders. But in terms of an additional space, at least in what we had thought about, that was not a specific consideration. So again, we're kind of at an impasse and we're only on number 4 here, as to whether or not we, by show of hands, make a motion to have the congregation affirm moving in this direction, but with rewording. And I confess, if we're going to do something like that, I'll need to defer to somebody that does that procedurally correct.
Well, John? Mr. Bylaws man, you said that about amending the motion. So do you have something that you want to say as far as how to amend it? Not put you on the spot or anything, John, but you're a professor. You can handle it. Yes. But that's not till Wednesday. Your surgery's not. entryway, initial classroom, with the establishment of a building committee to begin that bidding process. Is that good enough? Can you repeat that? I just thought I'd ask.
Okay,
No, I like what you said. I think.
What John said.
Well, that's what I was saying.
I'm with it.
Okay.
all right. Can we simplify this and take invest $500,000 to $750,000 into, strike that, and then initiate the planning for building in its place. Initiate the plan for building an expanded foyer, da-da-da. And that would include building committee and everything else. But, yeah, it's
Okay.
just basically
I see
changing four
one hand.
words.
I see a whole bunch of seconds, too. Okay, so are we raising hands for this or what?
Yeah,
I'm not in charge. Ask Ben that. Okay. Well, that was part of the estimate that I got from Chris Tolley. Well, I know everybody that had to go to the bathroom just left a little bit ago because we were talking so much about the bathrooms. Okay. But yes, I would think that building project does include that. We definitely would keep that into consideration because it's definitely an issue. So I would think.
As somebody who worked on the bylaws team, as far as I can remember, if we take out the monetary amount, it can just be a hand raise.
Works for me. I don't. Oh. I think Doug and Don are hungry. They're just raising their hands. Okay.
yeah. And just. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, at the risk of mutiny here, I agree with Gary. Trying to amend this verbally and show of hands and procedural and everything, it's just not the right way to go about it tonight. So we're gonna strike out the vote for number 4 tonight. We just will not vote on that as a church. And we will, in terms of votes, official votes tonight, it will just be on the pickleball basketball court. And again, I appreciate the patience of the church. I appreciate the engagement of the church. A lot of money. I mean, that wasn't lost on us for sure, but we do need to get the wording right. And again, I hear affirmation directionally, but we've got to get the wording right.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Okay.
Changing gears a little bit, since we seem to be in agreement on that part. Has there been discussion about vote 1, pickleball court, in conjunction with this vote? How far does it set us back, putting that 50,000 into the building right now and to our long-term goal of this?
I think they're two separate things. I don't think that the pickleball basketball court sets us back appreciably because again, it's not taken from a pool of money, Nate, that is going to stymie this. This is a long-term goal anyway. So yeah.
And we also, that $200,000 that's in the Edward Jones account, 100,000 of that can go towards the building project. So we already have 100,000 in the savings already that we could move towards the building part. So we already got that much money that we can use towards that. The other 100,000 is left in there for finance team wants to leave it in there for emergency purposes. Am I correct, guys? Yeah. Okay.
So again, I'm gonna move us on to goal number 5. We're an hour and 40 minutes into tonight's meeting. Do we keep driving? Do we?
Yes.
Yeah, let's go ahead and cast your vote for number 3, and then our deacons are coming around to collect those votes. I don't know. I mean, I'm completely out of. So, elders, do we want to keep driving with the next 6 when we're an hour and 40 minutes in? Okay. So, what do we have to officially like?
Yeah, let's just call.
Okay.
Who needs them? Who needs them?
Yeah, yeah. All right, so what I'm going to go ahead and announce, and again, we've cast the vote that is the one vote that we're going to move forward with tonight. Given the amount of time that we've already spent together, which is good time, but knowing that we still have more than we've even covered up to this point, we're gonna cut tonight's meeting off at that goal. We're gonna have to get together as a body for the other goals to be discussed and for questions to be asked, because there's a cookout tonight and there's folks that have prepared for that cookout.